Hello, everyone, and welcome back to hockeyprospects.com YouTube channel. I'm Jérôme Bérubé, and I'm joined this week by Brad Allen and Christian Litscher. And we're going to talk about the 2026 World Junior. This will be our recap show. Yes, we're a bit delayed. We're a bit like 2 weeks late on this, but better late than never, as they say. Guys, how's it going? And how is 2026 so far for you guys?
It's going well. Thanks for having me on, guys.
It's going. I just finished watching Pluribus season 1, and I highly recommend. Very interesting show, psychological drama / thriller, but very unique. I highly recommend it. It's very, very good.
Yes, lots of hockey so far for me. 2026. We're working maybe like on the future list that people will be able to see. So that's been a bit what 2026 has been all about so far. All right. So as I said, this week's show will be about the 2026 World Junior. We did a preview show. This will be a recap show. And as Christian was there in Minnesota in person, so we thought we'd bring Christian, who's our USA scout. So let's get going, guys. First team on the menu will be Team Canada. Obviously, Gavin McKenna was the very, very popular player that everyone wanted to see. So I can start with maybe Christian. Maybe your first impression on the Canadian guys here. Not only McKenna, but we can talk about Carols. We can talk about Verhoff, Ethan McKenzie. So pick whichever players you want to talk about, Christian, and we'll start the discussion like this.
Okay. I'll start with McKenna. I think he was one of the leading scorers in the tournament. And I think his vision, like basically you saw it was on full display, his skill set. You saw like his vision is exceptional. Like he showed that. He made a lot of really good passes. He's a really good power play player. He showed that throughout the tournament, like elite power play player. But you also saw maybe some of the concerns that we have around his off puck play, and that was more, when the games were easier against in the pre-tournament play, I think he stood out positively. But once you got to like the quarterfinals and the semifinals, and especially the Czech game, that's when like you saw more of the concerns about his compete level and his defensive game, and we saw more of the concerns. So I would say overall, like for McKenna, I would say the tournament, I don't know if it was necessarily a positive. Like he did play well, but we also saw the concerns too. So like going forward, I think number one's wide open, but I think there might be some other guys that could potentially overtake him. And on our list, we had him, I think, 4 on our initial list. So yeah. I don't know. I guess overall, like this tournament wasn't necessarily a huge positive that needed to be for him.
Brad, you want to touch on McKenna, who, as Chris mentioned, we had number 4. I don't think he's gonna move up. So maybe Brad, give your 2 cents here on what you saw from McKenna.
Well, I always find these tournaments interesting because it gives us an opportunity to see how the general public gets to evaluate some of these players for the first time. Because, obviously everybody's got their life to live. They got their own jobs to work and do. So they don't get to watch as much as we do. And so coming out of college there, we were telling everybody, hey, McKenna has not been what he's supposed to be. He's not been as advertised. And then you see the discussion publicly and you see it's like, oh, he is soft. He is perimeter. The skating isn't at the level that I think some people thought it was going to be. And it's interesting because I found that like people were starting to really understand where we're coming from. And then he gets a hat trick against Denmark and everything's erased. And it's like, well, hang on, let's calm down here, everybody. From a scouting perspective, we'd be discussing that game if he didn't get the hat trick. That hat trick means nothing. That means nothing. Let's put it this way. His best games at the tournament were against bottom feeders that let's be quite frank about this. Let's call a spade. If Russia and Belarus are this tournament, is Denmark at that tournament? How do you think he does against Russia's top 6 D-core versus a Danish one, right? So, like, this is a tournament that is not as strong as it used to be. It allows players like McKenna, who are brilliant junior talents, to take advantage of them and produce. So it's one of those things where I think some people have the blinders on because it's like, oh, he's not been that good. Well, he got 14 points. He's great. And it's like, well, from a philosophical perspective, it really depends on what you want in the top of a class. Like if you're a team and your power play's been terrible for 4 to 5 years, you're looking at your system, you're not seeing power play weapons come in, that player is a remarkable specialist for a power play. That is what he is. He's a power play merchant. He'll get you 50, 60 points on a power play alone. And he's a brilliant playmaker. So he'll give you that. That's what he is. What we always said is we're worried about him fading in the background at even strength when it matters. Well, how did he do at even strength when it mattered? He was pretty bad. I thought he was pretty bad. So it's one of those situations where it's status quo for myself and I think for our staff. And he's going to have to ramp it up to a completely different level in college coming back. He is not a play driver and he's not competitive. So when we're talking about our top 10, our 2 primary qualities are play driving and competitive nature of the player. If you lack both, you can't touch our top 5, let alone top 10. So I just think it's nonsense. And honestly, what we're seeing in media where everybody's still anointing him as number 1 coming out of this event speaks more to media than anything about it. But listen, I hope the kid is much better in the second half. It's better for the sport. It's better for everybody involved if he's good. But the biggest issue with this player, like the only time where I felt like he showed an ignition switch was when he got out of the penalty box after taking that minor penalty at the wrong time of the game there in the semis, where it was like he realized he had made a massive mistake at the wrong time of the game. And what did he do? He jumped out of the box, immediately rushed up the ice with the puck, and actually attempted a beautiful lateral drag shot in a high danger area. And it's like, oh, there you are. Now you're starting to actually want to show what you can do and try to dictate something, but it's fleeting. It's very, very fleeting. So he's going to have to really ramp it up in order to get our attention, I think, for the top 3 going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's just to finish on him, and we'll talk about the 3 defensemen here. I think what we saw at Penn State was pretty much what we saw at the World Junior. The good was good, and the bad was bad. And
his pace was slightly better. Let's say that.
Yeah.
Off the puck, he kept a bit of a better energy to him. I will say that. That's the one thing I'll give the kid. And obviously he's a brilliant playmaker. So.
I'll say this: playing with Brady Martin, you don't have any choice to.
You better keep up. Yeah.
Yeah, you better keep up. Okay. The 3 defensemen, obviously, Canada's biggest problem was their defensemen in that tournament. They were, I mean, honestly, like I think maybe Verhoff was probably the one that did not disappoint. But like the rest of their D-core was like very shaky, very prone to turnovers. So like Verhoff had like 1 bad turnover in the Finland game, but like outside of that, I thought he was, I thought he played pretty well in the tournament. And Carroll's didn't play a lot, but it was not an easy tournament for him. I felt like maybe the moment was a bit too big for him. And to be honest, it's really hard to play in that tournament at 17, and even more so as a defenseman. So he was that was a bit of a tough tournament for him. McKenzie was, he kind of comes out of nowhere. He had some tough shift, also tough turnovers at time too. So we're not gonna judge those players too harshly based on one tournament, obviously, but this was not like an easy, at least for Carrolls and McKenzie. It's pretty much like, okay, we saw what they did there. Let's erase it, and then let's focus on what they're gonna do in their own league. And I was actually like, I like what Verhoff did. He in limited ice time, obviously, but I did not hate what I saw from him. And Chris, you have any thoughts on Verhoff and Carrolls and McKenzie, depending who you want to talk mostly about?
For Verhoff, I came away thinking he's a little bit more of a projection than I thought coming in. I think I think at North Dakota he showed much better than this tournament. I think maybe starting as a scratch, he's kind of playing on his heels to begin with. But the big issue for me was just retrievals. I think he struggled at times with retrievals, and he would under pressure looked a little bit more panicked than I think at North Dakota. North Dakota, he looked a lot more composed. So that was one thing for me that was a little bit eye-opening. His shot was probably his best attribute at North Dakota. We didn't really see that at the tournament, but we saw some good, more playmaking and some good playmaking from him. So I think he did have some good moments. I just think overall, my biggest takeaway with him was, like I said, just a little bit more of a projection than he's a little bit further away from where we want him to be, or at least where I thought he was personally. But the upside's still very good.
Brad?
I think the big thing with gauging defensemen at this event is if you look at the minutes they're getting and the roles they're in, it's completely the inverse of what they're getting in league play. And that's going to really affect them. It's going to make it very difficult to gauge them at this type of event. No one looked comfortable. Not a single defenseman. Even Ben Danford, whose one job is to block a shot and get a puck out, looked uncomfortable. So if Cameron Reed couldn't skate it, Ben Danford couldn't get physical and block shots correctly. It's one of those events where, first of all, it's obviously for them, it's a pressure cooker situation. They are expected to win gold. It's not, they were by far the most talented team. It was most years, there's not as big a discrepancy. It was so painfully obvious who the most talented team at this event was. And that added even more pressure. And you got a Canadian sweater on. So it's one of those things where you got to give them some benefit of the doubt here, I think. I'm not going to really weight any of the performances very heavily. I don't think any defenseman at this event on Canada looked even remotely like what we've seen from any of them over the years in league play. So that goes for Verhoff. It goes for Carroll's performance. It goes for McKenzie. The one thing I'll say is Carroll's coming into this event. I thought he struggled a little bit in his games. Jerome, we watched a couple together. He's struggling a bit more. So, his confidence was already a bit down, I thought, by the time he got there. And then with McKenzie, McKenzie's a bit loose. The way he plays, he has to play a bit free. Verhoff falls in that category. You need to allow these players a bit of activation, a bit of looseness to their game. And I felt like there was a tightness to it. Everything was constricted as a result of not wanting to make a mistake and be the person who made the wrong play at the wrong time, right? So I think the tournament got to all of them a little bit. So I wouldn't gauge any of their performances too heavily.
All right, let's move on to Sweden. Gold medal, and they were led mostly by two of their draft eligible prospect, Ivor Stenberg and Viggo Bjork. Brad, you want to start about any of those prospects here? But mainly, we know how important Bjork and Stenberg were for that team at this tournament.
Well, if any of you missed our pre-U20 show breakdown, I said at the end of the Swedish breakdown, I said about Bjork, I really hope he has a bad tournament because he's completely undervalued going into this thing. And thanks, Bjork. Thanks for that one. He's up another 10 to 15 spots almost every list. I mean, this was a kid who's in the 20s on some lists. For food for thought. It took the U20s for some staffs to know that, right? Keep that in mind. It didn't take ours, luckily. We get things wrong, but we had Viggo Bjork right. Phenomenal skill set. One thing about him is, we know one of the people who drafted him in the Djurgården system. And that specific scout told me that he's the most impressive kid off the ice he's ever met. The mental makeup of this kid is second to none. I watched him in the SHL. He's designing plays for his coach during the timeouts. He's 17. What are we talking about? It's just unheard of territory, right? So I think that showed. He's a leader off the ice. He's a leader on the ice, and he performed extremely well in big game situations at this event. Obviously, the limitation there. I mean, how many breakaways did he get against Finland in that game? Was it 4 or 5? And couldn't pot the goal, and that is his limiting factors. He's not as dynamic a shooter as he is a playmaker and a handler, but that's okay. Like that's the limiter, but he's still really good everywhere else. And I think Chris, you saw him there live. The skating is not as bad as people think. Like the kid's weight transfers are there. His edge work is pretty solid. He's very smart, so he knows how to time his skating, much like Zach Benson in that way. Really, he's this year's Zach Benson in a way, if you really break it down. Like similarly sized, the skating's the issue. He anticipates the play in advance. Spatial awareness is spectacular. Exceptional vision. There's a lot of similarities. Plays way bigger than his size. And then with Stenberg, I just told you I thought we did a good job of scouting Bjork coming into the event. The first 4 or 5 guys, I was panicked. I was like, can I not scout in the SHL anymore? This isn't the same player we're watching. Like it was mind numbing how much worse he was in the first couple of games there. I remember, Chris, you messaged me being like, is this really is this what he's supposed to be? Because he's not looking nearly to the degree we were expecting. And then finally he started getting comfortable. His confidence came back. His sense of timing came back. And I want to emphasize that because that's what this player is. It's timing, it's calibration, it's a super intelligent player. And if he's off when it comes to those attributes, then he does not look right at all. But luckily, by the end of the tournament, we saw the version that we expect to be a dominant force and worthy of a top 3 selection. Very quickly, I'll mention William Hakanson. We're high on him. We had him in the top 32 of our ranking, 6'4", 210-pound unit of a kid. The huge selling point, you saw some of it here, the swarming style of defense, the ability to stay pressurized on top of opposing players, stay glued to them. Not the biggest hitter. Maybe he grows into that, but I love the energy the kid brings. And I thought his retrievals held under pressure for the most part. And that was the main base of our scouting here, was to see if his retrieval rates would hold. I've seen him referred to as a chip in glass out type of player. That is clearly written by somebody who's only seen him at this event. He has made some pretty impressive stretch weak side playmaking setups at the SHL level already. So good there. Casper Justavara Carlson, I thought he had a great tournament. The kid's a heart and soul player, incredibly high energy type of winger. He reminds me of Connor Garland in terms of the energy. The energy he brings, the style he plays relative to his size is very similar to Garland, but obviously the talent, I think there's a max cap there that looks more like if he plays a plug and play above replacement 4th line energy winger at this stage. But he had a great event. He did some very good things for Sweden. I thought he actually was undersold a little bit.
You could say Nathan Gerby also. For him.
Perfect. Yeah, Gerby as well.
Yeah. All right, Chris, you saw Sweden live. What was your takes on those 4 guys, or at least the Bjork, Stenberg, and Atkinson for you?
Yeah, well, Brad, you said it. Stenberg, the round robin, pretty underwhelming. Like he was a turnover machine in a lot of the games, and I think myself and I think a lot of people were expecting a lot more. But then in the when it actually mattered in the semifinal against Finland, he was really good. Like he was really, really good that game. He showed he can be hard on the puck. He's got a really sneaky release. He's got good vision. So you kind of saw, it made a lot more sense after watching that game, like how, when you look at it, because I don't watch him in the SHL. So when I look at the stats, you could kind of see how that could happen. Bjork. I came into the tournament not really expecting a whole lot, and I left the tournament like he definitely won me over. I was really impressed with the kid. He has great energy to him. He competes really hard. He's first on the puck. He plays fearless. Brad, all the things you said. I mean, he's really smart. He sees the ice really well. He has like really high end hockey sense. The finishing ability wasn't there in this tournament. So, that was probably the big negative, but I mean, he was definitely one of the best players on the ice and in a lot of the games. And especially when it mattered, he was really good. Hawkinson, I liked him early. I thought he, against the weaker teams, he like really stood out positively. I think his limitations were a little bit more apparent against the better teams. Like his skating is, it's okay. It's not bad, but it's just like really slow to get going. But like once he's moving, he can move. And like with the puck, he is limited. So it looked to me like it looked to me like his upside is more of like a number 4 type of guy that can play on a second pairing and support like a more of an offensive guy. But I did see, like, I think there's enough there that at least he's a third pairing guy. He looked like, I wouldn't say a lock to play in the NHL, but he does seem like a fairly safe, maybe not the highest upside, but fairly safe to play in the NHL. That was my takeaway with him.
Okay, I'll just add on Stenberg. I thought he played. The first 2 games, I was like, whoa, what is happening here? I remember even the Latvia game, I think they scored 8 goals. He had 0 points. I was like, what is happening? And then the USA game, that's where he started like playing a bit better. And then obviously the semifinal, he was really awesome. And up in the final too, like he looked like an NHL player in those 2 games. He looked like he could play in the NHL right now. One thing about him, and we can compare to McKenna if we want, because somehow people still have McKenna over him in on some lists, and I don't really understand, to be honest. Look how many puck battles Stenberg lost in those big games. Like he was not losing any puck battles. Super strong on his skate. Like he's physically, if you compare to McKenna, like he's way ahead of Stenberg physically. Much more ready for pro hockey. Obviously, he's playing pro hockey right now, but much more NHL ready than McKenna. So very positive. I guess a positive tournament, but like he was, fantastic in the second half of the tournament for me. And then we'll switch to Finland. Brad, let's start with you. We got 3 guys here, but 2 guys that are going to be, high first round picks in Oliver Savanto and Juho Piparinen. So let's start with Savanto. We had a lot of discussion about him. We really like this player. Power center, very intense, very physical, and the skating is improving if you watch him skate in the summer and you watch him skate now, there's some improvement here, and he's one of the youngest player in the whole draft. Also, he's a September birthday, so lots to like here with him, and he just keeps getting better, and I think he's keep moving up on our list. So I will not say where we think he might be on our list, but he's moving up.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love this player. This player has everything I wish McKenna had mentally. Like if McKenna thought like Savanto, we don't have issues. We're good. Everybody's good. But he doesn't. So Savanto's a very rare style of player. The big thing with Savanto, it's not what you see now, it's the projection going forward. When you compare him to other players who are now having success that are similarly sized, who are also raw in their initial draft season. So, for instance, Dmitry Voronkov is a player I've watched 6 years of his development. Voronkov was half the player Savanto is in his draft year. And Voronkov was a good prospect, very interesting, but he had same issues. Really, really raw mechanically in terms of his skating base, very sloppy. Sometimes he would just plays would die on his stick. Things wouldn't happen the way you'd want. And you're like, what's this really going to develop into? And now Voronkov is incredibly useful top 6. I would call him a power forward, but he's more like a cerebral style forward who can have power elements. And that's the difference here. This is why this player is so interesting. Savanto is a true power playmaking center. Those are extraordinarily difficult players to find. He plays a complete game. I thought his tournament was a bit up and down, but when you saw the sequences of brilliance, it's like, oh, this kid has so much runway. There's so much here, especially when you factor in his age. And I remember, Jerome, we were watching some of his handling rates, his entry rates, seeing where he's at in terms of being able to control his entries. And we saw some brilliant handling plays by him in Liga just before the event. I was hoping to see if some of that would translate. Admittedly, like it didn't translate to the degree we've seen in Liga, I don't think, but there were still some brilliant sequences. And the big thing with him is when he's at his full speed and the opposing team's coming at him with their full speed, he still processes the play correctly. That is a distinguishing trait. This is a player who was better than Hemming in, I thought, 2 of the 4 Hlinka games I watched. And so that really says something because Hemming right now, well, a little you remember Vigo Bjork, everybody? We said Vigo Bjork's a bit underrated. Well, get ready for Hemming. So, it's Savanto's the real deal. He's the real deal. I'd be shocked if he doesn't go extremely high in the draft. Let's put it that
way. Chris, what about Juho Piparinen for you? We talked a bit off air before recording, but you were like, I think you're really high on this player. So, what was your take on his tournament?
I'm a big fan. I like the poise he has with the puck, and I like his head's always up. He's always looking to make a play. He's a really good skater. So like you put he's 6'2", 6'3". So you put all of that into a defenseman, and like you have a really good base for a player. I see a guy that can play 20 minutes a night and just move pucks really well, be like a really good puck mover. I don't necessarily know how like high end the skill is. He's more of a transition guy, but he was a guy that I was really impressed with watching him. And then Savanto, I was really impressed with him too. Everything Brad said, I think for me, his most impressive game was against Canada. I thought he was just a monster that game, and he was competing. I mean, we used like a 3 to 9 scale, like to evaluate different attributes of a player. His compete looked like a 10 in that game. He was a monster. I think both of those Finnish guys, I think for me were very impressive and would be guys that I would look at fairly high in the draft.
Yeah. Brad, what about Jasper Kuta, who's he's a late 06, went undrafted last year. He plays in the OHL this year, so he's a bit of a unknown, I guess, at this point, but looks like a draft for a second year eligible. What was your take on how he did that in Minnesota?
Yeah, I thought he was a bit up and down, but you see the draft qualities. Like he's a heavy set kid. He can play along the walls. His shot's super heavy. Takes him a bit of time to load it at times. Like on the power play, he's a weapon because there's more space and time, obviously. And even strength, that's where he can have a bit of difficulty. But the big thing with him is I think he's a pretty underrated creative playmaker. That gives him another element that could really help his cause going forward. So I thought he looked like a draft at this event. To Chris's point with Piparinen, like one thing we're really looking for was like we've seen the processing rates when it comes to his preset processing with his playmaking, his mental mapping of the ice, his vision. Like one of the best signs ever when it comes to prospects who are first year eligible at this event is seeing how the coach trusts them over the event. Like he was getting no time, no minutes, and then over the course of the event, he started getting more time, more minutes, and he never looked out of place from the moment he stepped on the ice to me, which is good news because to your point, like this is a puck mover. This is a puck-moving defenseman. For all of you listening at HP, that is our least favorite type of defenseman. So you really have to be something to stand out to us. And that means elite processing rates and then having a secondary component that gives you a backup quality, specifically on defense. That means don't be soft. Now, admittedly, at this event, wasn't too hard to play against, but we've seen in the Liga quite a bit of development in that regard when it comes to the physical base. And to Chris's point, he is a bit raw. Like there is a potential growth rate here where once he fills out his body and gets more comfortable, we think he can be more smothering. So if you take those components of his elite puck movement plus the smothering plus the skating, now we're really getting something. So for us, by far the most interesting puck mover in this draft, where we think probably most of the other puck movers mentioned are quite frankly overrated, but this Piparinen held at this event. It was important to see for us.
Yeah, I mean those puck mover are a bit tricky sometimes because he is a puck mover, but he's not really a PP1 guy. And also defending, as you mentioned, physically, he's gonna need to bring it physically. But at the Olympia, he brought it physically. In the Liga, it's challenging for any 17 years old to play physical against grown men. He does it sometime, but it's not a really consistent part of his game. So those will, I think, if we see like if his physical game is consistent in the second half of the season, I think that's going to help him, move up on this, because I think most people will agree he ain't gonna be a PP1 guy, probably more of a PP2. I mean, depending on the team, now in the NHL, you have like maybe two defensemen that play on the power play on some teams. So even he might not even be a power play guy at all, depending on the team he goes to. So, but anyway, as Brad mentioned, the processing speed is probably his best quality. Like his ability to pass the puck and to read the play really fast. That's his best quality. And as you mentioned, he's far from being a final. He's far from being done physically. Like he's really young. He's a August birthday, so I mean, all the Finn guys this year are all very young.
That's this draft, Jerome. This draft's got some young players that are super interesting.
Like Suvanto is September birthday. Hemming is a September birthday. This kid is a August birthday, so it's very interesting to see. We try to project them, but in 3 years, what are they going to look like in 3-4 years? It might be very. I don't want to say very different, but it might be pretty interesting to see what they look like in 4 or 5 years. So, all right, let's move on to Team USA. Chris, Chase Reed was the lone draft eligible on the team. So, what was your take on his performance with Team USA? And he also probably got more minutes because of the Cole Hudson injury during the tournament. So. Your take on Chase Reed at the tournament?
Yeah, it was a disappointing tournament for, I would say, most of Team USA's players. I don't think too many guys had a good tournament, but Chase Reed was one of them. I thought he was a bright spot for USA. When Cole Hudson was in the lineup and was healthy, I thought Reed and Hudson were, pretty clearly the best two defensemen on the team. And really what stands out with Reed is his ability, his vision, and his ability to move the puck, and his stretch playmaking. I mean, he's a really good puck mover, really good in the offensive zone, very smart, good skater, though. Like sometimes, I don't want to say like maybe a little bit lackadaisical. There's probably a better way to describe that, but he could probably use a little bit more urgency in his first couple steps sometimes.
One gear.
That's one gear. That's our always.
Yeah. Gear. Good way to say it. Yeah. But with the puck, I mean, there's no question. He's tremendous with the puck, can make plays, sees the ice really well, can bring offense from the back end. So, I mean, I thought he had a great tournament. I thought, I think I forget exactly where he is on our list, but it looks like he absolutely belongs near, in the top 5 or, at least if he's not in the top 5, knocking right there. So, I thought he had a great tournament.
Brad?
I mean, listen, this kid, he really does remind me of the bad of Evan Bouchard. But what's Evan Bouchard's contract right now? Now, listen, I'd probably get $70 million if I played McDavid and Draisaitl on a power play too. But listen, Bouchard's had a good career, is my point, despite the flaw, which is exactly what Chris was alluding to. One note, one speed, no urgency off the puck. His defense is just one continuous gear, and from a scouting perspective, it can get very difficult because when it comes to wingers and centers, you never want one gear. You always want to see them rev it up and down and understand speed differentials, offset defense, be able to back check and explode and help and support your defense as a center, the speed differentials for the winger. When it comes to defense, sometimes you don't mind one note because it could scream poise. If it poised, calculated, cool, calm, collected defenseman, he's smart and he's cerebral and he'll move pucks. And Reed does that. Reed is a brilliant puck mover. So it's tricky because most players lack the ability to be incredibly intelligent puck movers, but then become whirling tornadoes of physicality when we want them to be, right? It's very rare to find that type of player. And and Chase Reed falls in that category. It's just, he plays like the Swedish chef off when it comes to transitional rush defense. He's throwing carrots and cabbage over the back of his shoulders, and he's hitting pans. He's doing his thing. He's just not built. That it's not built in him to pressurize and match urgency and take over the game defensively, like Albert Smits, for contrast, who we'll talk about, right? That's Smits's greatest quality, is his athletic base and be able to just consume the opposing rush. So really, from a scouting perspective of this event, what we're looking for is how much of Reed's playmaking and ability to quarterback offsets the defensive concerns of the one gear. And to us, I mean, for sure, he looks like a top 10 pick still. One thing I'll mention, though, I feel like he was more dynamic and, quote unquote, a bit more creative and looser with his offensive attack at the line and at the Sioux. With the Sioux, he's been a bit better there. So I felt like almost like what we talked about earlier, guys, with Canada, where the defense just didn't look right. I felt like Reed offensively didn't look the same that he does in the OHL when it comes to his quarterbacking. That was one discrepancy for me, for sure.
Yeah, I thought he had like a decent tournament, but I was expecting probably a bit more. Maybe it's more because of how bad Team USA was overall that it did affect some of his. I don't want to say performance, but maybe my expectation were a bit higher than what he did. But yeah, like you said, he's still like a guy who has PP1 upside, and there's not many of them in the draft from the back end. So that's a special quality that he has. He's a right D. So, and he's having a really good season also with the Sioux. So yeah, there's some flaws with his defensive game and physicality, but it's a bit like even Bouchard, as Brad mentioned. So we'll see in the second half of the season, but he's definitely going to be a popular player in the draft and in the top. If he's not top 5, somewhere in the top 10. All right, let's move on to Czechia, who was probably my favorite team to watch at this tournament. So let's start with Adam Novotny. Brad, maybe you want to start with him. I don't think this was like a very good tournament by him. I thought like some things he did well. Like I thought his hustles, his work ethic was good. His pace was good, which is, I feel like everyone on the Czech had like, they played like very with a very good pace. But I felt like he really struggled with his passing play. Like he struggled to make passes in the tournament. So that's a bit concerning because we mentioned in our preview show that maybe the hockey IQ here is a bit of the concern with that player. He does a lot of like pass that a very slim chance of succeeding, and so that is him turning the puck over a bit too much for us. So we need to see him play a bit smarter. So Brad, what was your take on Novotny at this tournament?
Well, to your point, like, okay, first of all, like we kind of live more on an island amongst our staff relative to what you see in the general public on this player. Like there was talks of this player, like one article I read talks about him with scouts being in the top 10 coming out of this event. That is, I don't see that whatsoever, right? So we see, okay, this player is very, very similar stylistically to Kasperi Kapanen. Now, Kasperi Kapanen plays in the NHL. He's had a couple of quality seasons. He's been up and down. He can drive you crazy occasionally. But every player is their own individual. So one thing I wanted to see was, is there some differences and qualities that we can find at the U20s that he can take back for the rest of the season that can help differentiate himself so he can have a better career down the road than Kasperi Kapanen has had. And that means being able to pass the puck at a higher rate, which Jerome just talked about. The other factor is being able to keep up the pace of play and play a 200-foot game more consistently. That's been a major issue here in the OHL with him. And that's where I thought he did perform better. I really did. The playmaking wasn't so good, but the pace, the willingness to engage, the willingness to fit into a structure, I thought was improved. So that's important for sure. I talked to you, Jerome, about this. I wanted to see him directly after coming back to the O. I feel like he has taken some of those qualities with him. He does look a bit better early here with the O. So we all think as a staff that this is an extremely overrated prospect. But I don't think he hurt his draft stock at this event. It was more neutral because he did have the revved up pace, and we already knew, like, this is a shooter, this is a sniper, this is a rush style player who's going to handle a puck, try to bypass an initial layer, and be able to get a quality shot off. That is his game. Obviously, he tried to emphasize that a little too much here, and there is definitely some hockey IQ issues. That is the major issue, and that was showcased too. So I thought more status quo personally, with some good and then some not so good. Thomas Galvez, I'm done playing around, Jerome. He's got to be ranked. We had him initially in the first year. We had him as what was it, fifth rounder, Jerome? Did we put him in the fifth or something? We had him as a fourth or fifth rounder, I thought. But we didn't rank him last year, and then this year I went back and watched him in Extra Liga. Like, the skating, it was always there. The reason that we were a bit lower on the player relative to, there was a lot of people who were super high on him even this initial draft season, was that the way that he chains plays together with his handling, playmaking, shooting ability, it wasn't that good. It really was. He didn't really show enough offense to justify taking such a small defensive player. That said, at this tournament, I thought he was driving play. I thought he was much better with his handling rates. In Extra Liga, they are holding much better. Is he weird? Oh yeah, he's weird. He's a unicorn of a kid. But one thing I love about him is that he brings so much energy. He's a nuclear engine of a kid. Like, the kid never, ever, ever doesn't play up to what he is as a player. Like, even in Liga, or Extra Liga and Czechia and Pro, it doesn't matter he's 5'10" and he's younger. He will still go right through a player defensively if he has to. He will sacrifice his body. He can move pucks. Do I think he can go up in a lineup? No. I think he's a really weird, specialized third pairing defenseman that needs insulation, but he can really skate the game. He'll always bring what he is. And we're talking U20s here. Like, I thought he was one of the best players at this tournament, even though, again, he's a bit limited relative to what you're seeing at this event. So he put me on notice. I think he's back to a draft status. Good on the kid. He's 5'10". There's not many defensemen that can get my attention at 5'10", but he did have a great tournament. Michael Arsulik, this is a player that was ranked on Central's list last season. I didn't have much time for this player. I didn't really like his performance at this event, and I really haven't liked him too much in the dub as well. So for me, the weight transfers are not very impressive. His skating mechanics are very raw still. Reads the play decently. His release point reads are decent. Made some huge saves here occasionally, don't get me wrong, but he also melted occasionally as well. So I saw these ranked recently in the top 2 on Central. They ain't going to be on our list for sure. He's a player I have to look at going forward here in the final couple months to see if there's enough there for me to rank him.
Chris, do you have any comments on Novotny and maybe Galvis as well?
Yeah, Novotny, my take was, it seemed like a heavy kid, like in a good way. Probably has some ability, some grind potential, but like I'm with Brad and you, Jerome. I didn't like his hockey sense. I thought his straight line speed was pretty good, and he could get the line, and he could be somewhat of a puck carrier. But he would, from what I saw, he would just get pushed to the outside, and he would take a lot of low percentage shots from the outside that pretty much had no chance of going in. He didn't, for me at this tournament. I mean, I haven't seen him in the OHL, but for this tournament, I did not come away very impressed with him. I didn't see a guy. He looked more like a mid-rounder to me than somebody that could be in the first round. And the defenseman, I mean, he did have a good tournament. I'm not sure if I would draft him personally, but I mean, he certainly had a good tournament. And then the goalie, I mean, Brad can break down the goaltending position much better than I can. But the thing that was noticeable for me was he just lost his net consistently throughout the tournament. Like, I can't remember a goalie losing the net as much as he did. So I think, Brad, you told me right before the call that he was ranked on some draft lists, and I found that surprising personally. But
well, I mean, he had a really tough first game against Canada. I'll give him credit. He kind of
battles. He battles. I'll give the kid that. He battles and tries to stay in it. He doesn't shrink. I'll give him that.
On the Czech depth chart, he was probably their third goalie. Like the first two goalie were hurt. So they still made it to the final, but I'm with you guys. He didn't. Not really a goalie right now. Like me personally, if I was in charge of a team scouting, I don't think it would be a goalie that I would really want to draft unless it's really, really late in the draft and all the goalies are gone. But I don't suspect this will be. I think there's going to be a lot of goalies this year with lots of potential, probably higher than him. So, all right, let's move on to Latvia. Albert Smits obviously was the focus point of that team. He's possibly a top 10 pick. I think we saw at this tournament what we saw a bit since maybe November in the Liga. We're starting to see some question marks, and we're not getting answer. Basically, the IQ offensively is lacking a bit. So we like the size, we like the skating, we like how he defends, we like his physical game, we like his confidence, we like his chaos. But offensively, I think there's some limitation here. The limitation is not his shot. His shot is a bomb, but it's how he sees things offensively that is lacking, and that will not make him a PP1 guy at the NHL level. Maybe a PP2 because of his shot, because he can really shoot a puck. I would say one of the best one-timer in the draft. So yeah, that's it for Smits. I think since November, like he really had a hot start in September, October, and since November it's been a bit mixed. And we kind of saw it coming with our viewings in the Liga before the tournament. So it's gonna be. I'm interested to see how he does in the second half. He's gonna play for Latvia at the Olympics, so it's going to be kind of it might be a crazy second half of the season for him. So should be fun. Brad, any comments on him and the other guys here that we have in Murnix and Burskans?
Yeah, so with Smits, it was okay. Two major issues going in the event. One was his passing power. He would pass pucks way too sharply. Like he was just cannoning the puck with his passes. Very hard for his teammates to handle his pass attempts. That was slightly better here, I would say, but it's still an issue, still highlighted here at this event. Not the softest touch by any stretch of the imagination. The other issue was what Jerome mentioned was, what are we dealing with offensively? Because defensively, he's awesome. One thing about the NHL right now, I watched a lot of NHL the last couple months. Every team is dying for a athletically gifted, mean shutdown monster that can skate, that can retrieve, that can move pucks at a decent rate. Every team needs one right now. Nobody can defend in the NHL anymore. So from that perspective, I like to weight his good extremely heavily and move him up because it's kind of like a unicorn in a sense from that perspective, almost like a Bixel. Jerome, I would say a little bit of Leon Bixel in him. Not as big, not as mean, but athletically dynamic with better than just stationary secondary offense. And that's the thing, was like, how much secondary offense are we dealing with? Let's see him quarterback this power play. Let's see how he actually operates. And the results are extraordinarily disappointing. I'm sad. I was really hoping coming out of this event that I could really think that he looks top 5, 6, 7, 8, yada yada. And he's not smart enough to fill that. So now he still has a bomb from the point. He still has pretty solid hands for a shutdown D. He's still super young, and occasionally he does flash something. We're like, okay, maybe he can actually string this together developmentally long term and really get to a 40-point player. But right now, it is not looking like that at all. I'm thinking much more production wise, like a Leon Bichsel. That's still useful. It's still interesting. But he dropped. His draft stock is dropped for me at this event. But as you mentioned, only player I think in this class is going to be the Olympics. That could be an interesting rebound. He's going to be going up against some staggering competition. We'll see how he handles it. But we have seen him already internationally against men, and he has had, honestly, some of his best sequences at those events. Like, he had the best retrieval of his career so far at an event earlier in the season internationally. So it will be very interesting. The other two players, I had no time for Murnieks going into this event. I still don't have time for him. And Burskens, he's intriguing as a late pick, I think, but he was overwhelmed here. He had a lot of difficulty at this event.
Chris, any comments on Smits and also the other two guys? You have seen him in the USHL. I mean, Murnieks was in the USHL last year, so you have a bit of good viewings on those guys in the past 2 years. So what's your take on those three guys here?
Yeah, Smits thought he was a little bit overrated. I mean, first rounder, I think, but yeah, like top 10, he did not look like a top 10 pick to me at this tournament. But I mean, he did have some good moments, and he was hamstrung from the standpoint that he was on Latvia in a lot of the games. They were outmatched. I think he played well against Canada. I think without Smits, then that game went to overtime, and without Smits, I think Canada would have probably ran away with that game. Yeah. So like he was an important piece there. When it was Latvia versus Norway or Denmark, excuse me, he had the two snipes in that game. And that particular day, I think there was only 2 games that day, and there were a ton of scouts and quite a few GMs in the crowd. So he did that in front of a lot of personnel. So yeah, I mean, he showcased the shot and the athleticism, but he looked to me more like a second pairing guy in this tournament. Burskens, I think he's had some. So last year, I did not think anything of him. I didn't have very high expectations. I thought, from what I've seen in the USHL, he's actually played quite well. I think he's a draftable player for sure. But in this tournament, Brad, like you said, he was just overmatched, and frankly, I think the pace was just too high. Like, his skating is the weak spot of this player, and he just had a tough time, with the pace of play. And then Murnieks, I actually liked his game last year in the USHL, but from what I've seen a little bit of him in the queue, and I saw him at this tournament. It doesn't look like he's progressed at all. It looks like he's really flatlined. From looking at this tournament, like I just didn't. It looked like he might just be a depth AHL player. I didn't even necessarily come away thinking he had NHL potential. So the 3 guys at Latvia, I don't think any of them. I thought none of them had great tournaments for me, but they were on a team that was outmatched in a lot of games.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to Switzerland, and we have Lars Steiner and Nashwander, who's eligible for next year's draft. So we want to maybe quickly mention him for the 2027 draft. Brad. I know you have a lot of love for Lars Steiner, so I'll start with you. What was your take of his performance at this tournament? Not an easy thing for him to produce offensively because he didn't have much help around him, and but me personally, I still thought he did some good things. Obviously, he flashes. His shot is probably his best asset with his compete. But anyway, what was your take on Steiner at this tournament?
Well, I mean, our nickname for him is the Keg, and he barrels around the ice. He's a handful, and I thought honestly he was pretty good here. Like, he could have drowned out more than he did. He's first year eligible. His biggest issue is his 3-step area quickness, his acceleration. The kid is heavy set. He's got the colossal ice cream in him. It's going to take him some time to get the fast twitch and get going. He's a very tricky evaluation because admittedly there's just so few of these players in the NHL. Like there's just so few of them, but I love him. And that's the hard part of scouting is it's like, I love this player, but translation wise, you got to be very careful. But I mean, he scored some big goals. He looked extremely dangerous on the power play. When isolating him, I thought his playmaking actually not only held, but actually looked pretty darn good in some instances. But it all comes down to growth rate with his explosiveness. If he can get super explosive for that build, then he has a chance because the compete is just, it's almost like Savanto levels. Like he is not stopping. You're not stopping the kid from trying to forecheck and hit, and he'll run through traffic for you. He'll do everything right for you. And what's unique about him is he doesn't need too much time or space to do his thing. Mechanically, he's a very gifted shooter. So he has shot quality and he's also inside driven. And those are two very useful and distinct traits. So I am on notice. I thought he was pretty good here, but admittedly, this showed some limitations too. With Neuenschwander, like we're talking top blue chip style prospect. He's playing the National League full time in his -1. And I believe, didn't he play at 15, Jerome, as well in the National League?
Yeah. So if this kid doesn't play in the NHL at 18 or 19, he might play in 5 World Junior tournament.
That is crazy. That a record? That's gotta be some sort. That's crazy. So I mean, he's extremely well-rounded, very intelligent. There's a whole lot there. Honestly, didn't get to showcase too much of it, I thought, at this event at times relative to what I've seen, but I mean, it doesn't matter. We'll deal with him next year. There's enough going around to deal with between Tynan Lawrence and McKenna and Belchetz and all these crazy players driving this. Oh my God, what are we going to do with them all? So Neuenschwander is not something we have to focus on right now.
Chris, your take on Steiner and Neuenschwander as well, if you have any thoughts.
Steiner, he didn't do a whole lot for me. I mean, I like his shot quality was definitely his most impressive attribute. He had, I think it was against Sweden. He had a really nice snipe, and you could just tell like how he shot the puck. He just has a tremendous release, tremendous shot quality. So that was impressive. Thick kid, and he's competitive, so you like that aspect. But for me, he's just undersized and not that good of a skater. I wasn't a huge fan, at least like projecting him to NHL. I don't know I'm not even going to attempt to say his name, but the Jonah kid, on the other hand, I really liked him. Like he was impressive. Maybe I'm giving him a little bit of too much of the benefit of the doubt as a young guy, but like he seemed like he could be really, really good. He was big, he could skate, he was smart, he has skill. Like he didn't shoot the puck too much, but like he handles the puck well and he sees the ice. It just seemed like there was a lot there, and he seemed like somebody that's going to develop really well. So we'll see. I mean, sometimes players are really good at 16, 17, and then they kind of flatline. So there's still a long ways to go, but he seemed like somebody that could be really good down the road. Yeah, and could develop really well.
Yeah, if everything goes right, maybe that's a top 10 pick next year. But as people who have a lot of experience in scouting, things change very quickly in scouting from year to year. So always very tricky to make a very confident projection on guys for the next year's draft. So, all right, we got one more team, guys. Slovakia, who had 4 guys, and as we mentioned in the preview show, Brad, not really high on any of them, and I don't think this tournament changed anything. I thought Shrenko and Nemec had a good tournament, but it just doesn't really change for me as far as like their NHL draft projection. For me, not really guys. I'm really would really want to draft them unless it's a late pick. So Brad, start with you. Your take on Shrenko and Nemec, and we can also talk about Tomek and Golyer as well.
Sure. So the big thing with Shrenko, great tournament in terms of production, had some excellent games. He can shoot a puck, dangerous on the power play, no question. Our issue has always been the 5-on-5, the 200-foot game, showing anything off the puck, showing the ability to play bigger in his size, playing in the interior. I've seen that he's been called a very good skater. Highly disagree with that. Skating is relatively average for his frame, and I think his toolkit is it. So you're talking about an undersized to average toolkit player that doesn't bring a lot of fire to the game. So let's put it this way: he has the eraser, and I think what happens is sometimes when you got an eraser, it can mask the deficiencies to some people watching. The big one for me was Adam Golgier, because he actually can really skate. He showcased that at this event as he has in Liga in Slovakia. The question mark for us has always been, does he have enough skill to actually matter? And can he hold under a heavy forecheck? Because he's been very mixed for us in our Slovakia pro games. And unfortunately, he did not do very well at this event at all. Then he couldn't quarterback a power play. And his retrievals and exits were, for me, pretty mixed. So I honestly, very disappointing. And then Nemec and Tomic, I don't think have any chance whatsoever. But I really thought they tried to bring it at this event. Nemec did have some good sequences, and I've been wrong. So we'll see what happens. But the Slovaks are not they are not cooking compared to some of these other secondary Euro countries this season.
Chris, do you have any thoughts on any of those guys here?
Yeah, Shrenko was a sniper, and he's definitely a talented player. But to me, it looks just more like an AHL scorer, like a not an NHL player, like perimeter sniper, and like he can shoot a puck, like I said. But yeah, it's really just undersized and not a good enough skater, and like doesn't bring enough outside of his shot. So, but he's talented. Nemec, I thought he had a couple good passing plays, I think, and some good skill plays, but I don't like his. I don't think he's good enough, and I don't think his skating's good enough to be an AHLer either. And Golgier, like I thought he was, like all things considered, as a draft eligible player, U18 player, I thought he was okay in the tournament. Like didn't necessarily make like a huge impression on me, but he was one of those guys where it's like maybe like circle back on the U18s and see how he looks. But at this tournament, I don't think he made a huge impression. And Tomic, frankly, I don't remember a whole lot about him.
All right.
Sums up his performance at this event, so it's perfect.
All right. So I'll just finish with some of my thoughts. Shrenko, I look at what Philip Mizar was at the same age. Mizar was a better hockey player, better skater, and we know what's happening with Philip Mizar. He's not going to play. So that's not really helpful for Shrenko, at least for me. Nemec, not a bad player. Did fine at the tournament, but I still don't see how what he would be at the NHL level. So, like, I don't think he's good enough offensively. He doesn't really play physical. He's okay defensively, so like that doesn't sound like an NHL player to me. Golgier, I think, or Carlos Endel, player comp Brad still works.
Still holds.
Yeah. So again, he's a right D, 6'3". So as Chris mentioned, we'll see in the next few months where his game go. He's gonna get drafted because he's 6'3" and he's a right D. Yeah. By the way, Nemec is playing in the OHL now. He's with Sudbury, so we'll get more viewings of him. Shrenko, I'm a bit disappointed. Like he could have signed with Kitchener. He's not. That would have been a great spot for him. Still not coming over. I don't think that's gonna help his draft stock. And Tomic, like Chris mentioned, didn't really do much. You know, not very noticeable on the ice. So that's I feel like it's the story of his draft season so far. It's been very disappointed. I've been very disappointing how he's played in the WHL, and it was the same thing at this tournament. So that is a wrap, guys, on our recap from the 2026 World Junior Hockey Championship. So I want to thank Brad. I want to thank Christian, and I want to thank everyone who's been listening for this or watching for this podcast. And we'll see you guys soon for a new episode. Meanwhile, keep liking, keep comments. Always help us in the on YouTube to attract more viewers. So and if you comment, either myself or Brad will probably answer if you have any questions. So so hopefully we'll see you in the comment section, and so we'll see you guys for a new episode.
Tell us how wrong we are about McKenna. come at us, people. We'll see.
All right, so see you guys for a new episode pretty soon, and take care, everyone.
Thanks for listening, everyone.